Hello everyone, my name is Amber. Welcome back to my channel, Amber Reads Romance. Today I'm going to be doing a recommendation video of my favorite widow romances. I was inspired to do this because I am participating in the Romance Readathon for the month of August. I'm on Team Seductress, and our character is a widow looking to spice up her life, and I thought it would be really fun to kind of dive into some widow romances that I've read. So I'm going to dive right in. I think I have like about 8 or 9 of them. A big thank you to Maggie because she's just put on such an amazing readathon. I'm having so much fun in Discord chatting with everybody about books, and we're getting competitive and it's just fun. So let me just go ahead and dive right in. The first one that I want to bring up is actually a book that I read for the Romance Readathon. We had a buddy read for the Scoundrels of St. James series by Lorraine Heath. This book is Between Devil and Desire. This is book number 2 in the series. You could go in just reading this one though. It goes fine by itself. And honestly, so far on this series, it's my favorite one so far. So this one is between Jack Dodger and Olivia. Jack Dodger is actually, this is the Scoundrels of St. James is this group of kids. They grew up on the streets. They're kind of like in their own little gang, and they've worked their way up and are doing better. Jack Dodger actually was like the thief, and he was one of the best thieves, and he actually kind of had a secret benefactor that gave him money, left him some money, and so he decided to put that to good use, and he slowly built it up, and he owns his own gambling or gentleman's club. So he's doing really well. He's very rich, and he's such an amazing character. So then you have Olivia, and she is actually a widow. Her husband just died, and he basically, at the start of this, we're starting out his reading of his will, and she's pretty shocked because Jack Dodger is at this reading of this will, and all of a sudden things are left all to Jack Dodger, not to her or to like a family member. She has a young son named Henry, and so she's worried about him because now he's going to be like taking care of her son and raising him to be the Duke and all of that. Jack Dodger doesn't want anything to really have to be responsible for her son, but he is intrigued and like why this guy left him everything. He kind of knew him, met him one time, so he's pretty curious. Livy, which he calls her Livy, but it's Olivia, is pretty furious because she knows who Jack Dodger is. She doesn't know why her husband left everything to him because she's been a good wife. She did marry him just out of her duty to her family. It wasn't a love match or anything like that, and he was a lot older than her. But they basically, like, he needed an heir, and that's kind of like how their marriage was. Like, honestly, they didn't really connect or have sex more than him needing his heir. So this leads to a forced proximity situation where Jack Dodger is now living in her home, and he's slowly builds a relationship with her son that is really beautiful. Like, he immediately recognizes that Henry was being kind of abused by the governess and gets rid of her, and they slowly start this interaction. So I love Jack Dodger. He's one of my favorite heroes now. He's super sexy, and he was very into Livy, and like when they kiss the first time, it is so hot. Like, he's just very sexy. So they end up kind of having this little secret relationship going on, and it's just super hot. He, was supposed to be trying to find her a new husband so he wouldn't have to continue to take on her son and everything. That was like the other stipulation. But he doesn't really want her to marry anyone else. So I loved this. It's spicy. It's a great read, and I gave it 5 stars. Jack Dodger is one of my favorite heroes. It's a great read. So the next one that I have is Devil in Disguise by Kleypas. She's one of my favorite historical authors, and you know this. But this one is really fun. I always love ones where devil's in the title because it's somehow connected to a certain somebody who's one of my favorite top book boyfriends of all time. And this is Merritt Sterling and Keir McRae. And this is actually Ravenel's number 7, or Ravenel's Meet the Wallflowers number 3. So you're going to get lots of characters from like those series in here. So it's just fun, especially to see characters from the Wallflowers. So in this, Merritt is actually a widow. Her husband has died and she's running his shipping company, and she has a kind of run-in with a customer. Keir is very upset. He's his Scottish guy. He has like his liquor that he had in a shipment. I think that got like ruined or whatever. It was like some kind of damage. And so he goes in all pissed off to confront her, and she just handles him like a pro, and she's very attracted to him and kind of like pursues him. So she's very the seductress type of widow. And so she kind of goes after him, and they have an instant connection. But for some reason, Keir's life is in danger. Somebody's trying to kill him for reasons we don't know. I believe they kind of have like a one-night stand almost. I think so. Sorry, it's been a while. I haven't read this in a long time. So I believe they have they hook up, they have a one night stand, but he gets attacked where he kind of loses his memory. But don't worry, it's not one of those annoying amnesia like things. It's pretty quickly figured out, but she has to kind of like take care of him, and she doesn't want to leave him. And then you find out why he's being attacked and who it's connected to. And so I just loved this. I loved how like she went after what she wanted, and it was just such a cute romance. Okay, the next one I have is The Duchess Takes a Husband by Harper St. George. I actually read an arc of that this year. Unfortunately, I went in like just reading this book. I hadn't read any of the previous series. So this is in the Gilded Age Heiresses series, and it is book number 4. So I kind of recommend reading it from the beginning, because I think you got more of a build-up, because this character has been seen, the heroine's seen in this throughout the whole series. But I still really loved it. She has just become a widow. I guess in the previous books you kind of saw her with like her marriage to the Duke, and he was very abusive. So there's domestic abuse that she suffered from him, and it was a very unhappy marriage that she was kind of forced into. So now he has died, and it's Camille. She's the Duchess of Hereford, and she basically kind of propositions Jacob Thorne to kind of have sex with her or teach her sexual things, because she had no good experiences with her sexual relationship with her husband. And so he kind of agrees to this, but he wants to do it like as a fake dating thing, because of like this business thing he's trying to do. It would look better for him if he's like seen to be with her and not be this like rake that he's seen as. So they kind of do this fake dating, and she is slowly getting lessons in like sex seduction from him. And so that's pretty hot. I think it was a very good slow burn kind of between them. And it was really good to see her be able to like finally have a good sexual relationship, because she thought something might be wrong with her. And so I think it would hit more emotionally if you read it from the beginning of the series, but I still really enjoyed this book, and I thought it was really sweet. So this next one I want to bring up, because I have a lot of historicals. There's a lot of historical widow romances, but I have a more contemporary one, and that is The Takeover by TL Swan. I'm sorry if my lighting is getting really bad, but I'm in San Diego, and we're in our hurricane watch because the hurricane's coming towards us. Although I think by the time it gets here, it's just a tropical storm. But it just got really dark, and it's starting to pour, and we're having pretty bad winds. So if you can hear all that, I'm sorry. Anyways, The Takeover. So I really loved this book. In this we have it's the Miles High Club. This is book number 2. You could go in just reading this. Honestly, it'd be a great standalone kind of book anyways. And this is Tristan Miles and Claire. So Tristan Miles is like top book boyfriend material. He's kind of responsible doing the takeovers for the company and taking over these other companies. And he actually was trying to take over Claire's her dead husband's company, and she's really holding on to it, even though it's struggling, because she wants to leave it for his sons. She has 3 kids. So she is a widow of 3 kids, and she loved her husband a lot. So they had a beautiful relationship, and she was devastated when he died. So what ends up happening is they have a bad interaction their first meeting because he's trying to take over her husband's company. She tells him no and to F off. And then she has to go to this like seminar thing, and ends up, one of the speakers is Tristan Miles. And so he's very intrigued by her. He's very sexually attracted to her. So they kind of have this weekend fling in Paris. It's very whirlwind, like fun weekend. And then she kind of like, it ends there. When they get back, Tristan doesn't want it to end, and he wants to pursue her. But she's very reluctant and doesn't want to because of her children and, you know, her husband and everything. So that may get frustrating for some people because she's very like reticent and has a hard time moving on from her husband and feels guilty. But those are all valid feelings and emotions of somebody that's going through that. The funny thing in this is her kids do not want him around. One of them specifically like attacks him, and so he shows up thinking he can like woo her, and gets attacked, sees these 3 young boys and gets attacked by one of them, and he's just in over his head. But the thing that's beautiful about this romance is the way Tristan like woos her and tries to build this relationship with her sons. And so it's a really, really beautiful romance. Tristan Miles goes all out, and he's so good. Like, one of her sons ends up getting an internship at his company. So he kind of starts to like mentor him and build a relationship with him. So this is a great book. Definitely recommend. The next one I have is a Beauty and the Beast retelling, and that is Entreat Me. This is by Grace Draven, and I love this book. It's a father and son are actually cursed, so it's not just, one. And they were cursed by his like wife that died after childbirth, and she was pretty evil. So Ballard and his son are cursed, but Ballard ends up taking on most of the curse onto himself so his son could have freedom and find love. And so he's very like beastly and scarred and suffers through this curse. So and then we have Louvain, sorry. I might be saying that wrong. But she is actually a widow. And she is pretty protective over her sister. Her sister is falling in love with his Ballard's son, and she ends up kind of like sneaking off to go with him to the castle. And so Louvain, she chases them down and basically says no, she can't stay here. It'll ruin her reputation. I need to protect her virginity and all of that. So she agrees to stay there for the winter with her sister and see where things go. So she is so feisty and goes for it, and I just love her interactions with Ballard, and she basically kind of goes after him. She pursues it, and she wants a sexual relationship while she's staying there for the winter. And so they slowly start to fall in love, and it's just a really different twist on the Beauty and the Beast kind of storyline. And so I really, really loved it. I loved the widow. I think she was just ballsy and went for what she wants, and it was just really, really cute. The next one I have is Devil's Daughter by Lisa Kleypas. Yes, another Lisa Kleypas. So again, it's another one with devil in the title. I guess I have a favorite. But this is the Ravenels number 5, or the Ravenels Meet the Wildflowers number 2. And this is between West Ravenel and Phoebe. And Phoebe is a widow. She actually married her childhood like best friends, like that she fell in love with. She married him even though he was pretty sick and would die pretty young probably. But she loved him and didn't care. She did have kids with him, but he has passed away, and she meets West at her brother's wedding, because her brother married, I believe, Pandora Ravenel, and she meets him, and she actually didn't really like him because her husband had wrote her letters when he was in school about West and what a bully he was. Now, West Ravenel, you have seen throughout the series, the Ravenel series. He started out as a rake, a playboy, like really no responsibilities, but he has become so responsible and turned his life around. He is the estate manager for his brother's like lands, because his brother ended up inheriting, I think, an earldom. And so he is actually like really worked with the people there to try and renovate and like improve what they're doing. And so he's really become such a good man now. The problem is that as he connects with Phoebe, he actually is helping her, like he's supporting her because he believes that she should be in charge of her lands and her children. And so he's helping her out in that, and they kind of fall for each other. But he doesn't think he's good enough because of all the bad things that he's done in his past. So that's kind of like the main drawback of them, like holding them back from being together. The one thing I can say I love about this book is that we get to see Sebastian St. Vincent, and to see him as like the loving father he is to Phoebe, and just how cute. I just love Sebastian St. Vincent. As you know, I mentioned in the other one that he's my top book boyfriend. Anytime you see devil in the title, it somehow relates back to the St. Vincent. So those are usually my favorite because I love him so much. This one I probably should have brought up before that one, because Cold-Hearted Rake is the Ravenel's #1. But so you kind of, this is taking us back. So when you kind of first met West, which his brother Devin Ravenel inherits the earldom, and so he meets his cousin's widow, Kathleen. Honestly, this is probably like my least favorite in the series, but I still think a lot of people do love it. So that's why I want to recommend it. And Kathleen has 3 sisters that she's responsible for, and her husband died only after being married for 3 days. So she's kind of like in a bad situation where she wants to protect like what's going on, because Devin like wants to sell off the lands and to take care of debts, and she doesn't want him to do that. And then she also is worried about taking care of her sisters and getting good marriages for them. And so they kind of have this butting heads kind of relationship, but they fall for each other. And I don't know, it's not my favorite one, but I do think it's a good setup, and it's good to read it when you first start the Ravenel series. The next one that I have is The Earl Takes All by Lorraine Heath. This is an interesting one because she's a widow, but she doesn't know she's a widow. So we have Edward Alcott and Julia. And Edward Alcott is actually her husband's twin. He actually, I think, kissed her like randomly at one thing. I haven't read it in a really long time, so I really want to reread this. But he has been like in love with her, but she ended up marrying his twin. So his twin ends up dying when they're like abroad. I can't remember why they were abroad, but they're off together abroad, and his brother dies, but he has him promise to basically go home and pretend to be his brother, because she is actually pregnant, but she's had multiple miscarriages, so he doesn't want her to lose the baby. So Edward has to go home and pretend to be his twin while he's been like in love with her, secretly pining for her forever. So it's a really weird, it's a crazy book, because you're like, how are they going to make this work? What's going to happen when she finds out who he really is? So I really loved it. I want to reread this because it was so good. So I would definitely recommend this, because I mean, she's a widow. Does she know she's a widow? No. But it's like angsty too. I love it. So the last one that I have, I thought I would throw in a mafia romance. This is not my favorite in the series, but it's a big series, so it's still a good book. And that is Bound by Duty. This is book number 2 in Cora Riley's Bound by Blood series. And this is Dante and Valentina. So actually, they're both, like, he's a widower, she's a widow. He actually lost his wife to cancer. They were married for, I think, like 12 years. He was in love with her. It wasn't one of those like just arranged marriages in mafia. He loved her. So he's very devoted to his dead wife. And that's part of the irritation in this book, because Dante's like a cold fish. He's a dick. Valentina was married. Her husband died. But she was kind of in a marriage with her best friend to kind of cover for the fact that he was gay too. So she is actually still a virgin. So she's pretty worried about that when they get married, that he's going to find out she was still a virgin and married before. So this is kind of an angsty thing because it's like Dante is not fully like really want to even have sex with her or have this marriage. He's just doing it because he has to. And so it's this kind of slow build of them falling for each other. And it's still a great installment to that series. Dante's just not my favorite, but I think it's a really great example of like a widow romance. So, and I wanted to put something different in here, not just all historical romances. So those are my picks for this widow romance video. Let me know if you've read any or any that you want to recommend. As always, thank you so much for watching this. If you can, please remember to like and subscribe, and I will see you on the next one.